Yetunde from Trowers and Hamlin. How are you? And welcome.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm really good, thank you. I'm a partner at Trowers and Hamlins, and with effect from January last year, I became head of our Birmingham office. At Trowers and Hamlins, we are a very diverse group of people that have come together to deliver excellent services to our clients, and obviously we're based in the legal profession. We created our diversity and inclusion program, and it's called Trowers Includes. We've had it since 2016, and it's a total revolution. Like Carlo has said, we encourage everybody to bring their whole selves to work if they want to. We do recognise that not everybody's comfortable. The network, the Trowers Includes is made up of a number of networks, and they cover gender, work and family, LGBTQ+ and allies, physical and mental well-being, which has been key obviously during the pandemic, race, ethnicity and cultural heritage, religion and belief, social mobility, and then we've also got a network for our colleagues in our international offices that perhaps just need to be aware of the cultural sensitivities in the Middle East around some of the networks. It works really well. Like Carlo, we encourage everybody to become part of one or more of the networks. I myself have been very passionate about the LGBTQ+ allies, and I attend their meetings and I organise Pride, and just I have actually learned so much. And I think by being a member of an ally, you may be exposed to things that you may not be exposed to in your private life. And I think you can learn so much that you can then take into your personal life, and as a result, it's a ripple effect. It starts changing the world. And so I champion and celebrate my LGBTQ+ colleagues. Diversity is just so important because together we can produce so much more if we appreciate, respect and celebrate each other. And I endorse what Carlo has said about getting involved in your networks. We at Trowers have provided an incentive by, we also take involvement and activity in the D&I space into account in relation to appraisals and performance bonuses. So that's how we encourage people. It's also important because our clients are demanding more, our clients are demanding change. There are clients out there, when you tender for work, they don't want a traditional white male middle-aged panel of people to go and present to them. They are demanding change. Some of you may have heard about the counsel in-house counsel at Coca-Cola. Okay, it was in the States, but he recently has said, you know, he's not interested unless people are presenting diverse panels. We don't just talk about it. It's not a tick box for us. It's supported and championed from the very top. It's supported and championed from the very bottom. So that's the way in which we make sure that we have a really good buy-in to this. It's, you know, it's our culture, it's our DNA.
Brilliant.
Nikki, I'm going to hand back to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Yetunde. Many interesting points raised and already shared there, which I'm sure will come up in our main discussion that we're going to have now. Thank you all again for taking the time out. And I just need to note as well, please, everybody, if you want to share a question, put it in the chat function. I can then have easier access to look at them. So a couple of you've already said, can CBRE also mention the other networks that they have as part of the workforce there, Women's Network and the Veterans Network. So thank you for that, who posted that point. And also, I think I'm still waiting to hear clarification on this. I'm sure one of the colleagues from BPIC will let us know whether you'll have access to this recording afterwards. We will make sure I answer that before we finish our time together. So let's open the floor then to this discussion about how to attract and retain diverse talent. We know that I've mentioned it, of course, lockdown, but last year also saw BLM, Pre that, we've always had some discussions about diversity. And then, of course, more recently, the deaths of women in particular, the most high profile one in the news, but also the news of a young Black girl in Sussex who was murdered. So there's a lot of conversation and things that's happened while our workforces, and in particular, CBRE and Trowers and Hamlin are saying we need to have this discussion. I'm going to turn to Desreen first. Now, make sure I pronounce this correctly. So I want to ask you.
Oh, just Dens. Dens is fine. That's easy. Dens.
Desreen. Oh, Dens. Let's go with Dens. Dens, tell us a little bit about your role with CBRE, and that why for you is this important that the talent comes through, because there'll be one or two people going, yeah, it should be about the talent, not always about the color of the skin or the sexual orientation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you alluded to this earlier on the introduction, but it's worth just clearing up sort of my career progression within CBRE. So I've been with the organisation 10 plus years. My entry level in the business was actually as a contract support. And the business has a referral scheme whereby anyone who works in the organisation who knows of someone who could work with us gets referred in, and they're actually given a bit of a compensation as part of that referral. So I was one of those referees that came into the business, and I kind of fell into facilities management. It wasn't something that I aspired at a young age to get into, because I just didn't have the awareness of the career opportunities within. So, all back when in 2008, 2009, when I was referred into the business, I came in as a contract support, and there was a number of opportunities that presented themselves throughout the duration of my time at the business, whereby I done contract management, mobilisation manager, account manager. I even went over to our advisory and transaction team, consultancy side, and then more sort of recently took over a business unit. And at that time, I think it's fair to say that I was one of the youngest, or the first youngest Black female to be promoted as a business unit leader in that position. And I held that role for just over 3 years. And then more recently, been given a great opportunity to run the sales team in our business, heading that up with quite a big target. So for me, I've got a quite driven personality, but I think when we talk about allyship, even on my career journey, I've had quite a lot of support wrapped around me in the business. And I come from the predominantly technical background, hard services element of our services. So, to Yutandi's point, absolutely right. Normally, we would see a middle-aged, white guy panelists of clients and of teams. And more our customers are pushing us to change that narrative, and we are responding to that. We are absolutely responding to that, and trying to ensure that we create aspiration at every level for people to see that there is definitely opportunity within our organisation to be successioned into a number of roles.
And again, some of us might be saying, well, yeah, that's all good. We know that that's what we're supposed to be doing, and that's what CBRE is doing. But is it really tapping into things across that spectrum? And already with one or two people have put in questions, and by all means, all of you, don't feel that you need to wait for me to mention your name, but by all means, please jump in. But we've had people, there's already comments coming in around disabled people. What's happening with that? Neurodiversity, something I have to be honest, that's new to me. That's an unexplored field of talent. An employee disability network, are all those parts of it? So Hannah, I mean, you can chip in here, because I know you again, you've worked your way through to where you are now.
So yeah, just similar to Den's, just as by way of introduction. So I've been with the business 7 years, and I entered at the same entry level as Den's, as a contract support, and very similar. I'm very ambitious. I'm very driven. I fell into FM as well, as do most people that we speak to. An opportunity happens, and then we suddenly find ourselves absolutely loving this environment. And I've been incredibly lucky, grateful. I've had mentors all the way up through my career development, which has been fantastic. And I've had coaches, and I've had a really strong allyship around me. And just reaching out to the person that mentioned the other networks, I know someone's put a comment in about that, just to confirm. So we do have 6 networks, Reach, Women's, Proud, Faith, Ability and Veterans Network. So just to confirm that, they are the 6 networks for whoever put that question in, just to make sure we talk about those. They are all overlapped. They're all interlinked in some form as well. And I think one of the good things about our steering committee at the moment is, obviously, Denz is the co-chair of Reach, I'm the co-chair of Proud. We all talk to each other. We're all overlapping all of our ideas and what we're trying to do, which is why we're successful in what we're achieving at the moment. We're all helping each other on this journey.
And so, that being the case, is this something where people might say, and you may have had these conversations, this is just all knee-jerk reaction, isn't it? We're only jumping on the bandwagon because BLM kicked off, and then we suddenly went, oh, we better look around and see what kind of brown or black faces we've got initially. Who would like to respond to that?
Oh, sorry, Nikki, I'm shaking my head,
Yeah,
but I feel very passionate about this. I think there are organisations that recognise that to get the best out of their diverse talent, they need to champion them. And as I said, when I joined Trowers and Hamlin's 10 years ago, I was quite surprised at how diverse it was. And I was quite critical about the fact that we didn't celebrate that. And so the whole idea of Trowers Includes, long before George Floyd was murdered, we were celebrating our differences. And I think the fact that we have got the initiative means that when any time something difficult comes up, like the George Floyd murder, we won't shy away from having those difficult conversations. It was very easy, for example, for me to pick up the phone to one of my senior equity partners and really have a very open conversation, the type of conversation that 25 years ago, I'd have sat on my hands and kept my mouth shut. So, for us at Trowers and Hamlin, it's not jumping on the bandwagon. Anything that we decide to introduce, so there's a conversation at the moment about the Halo Code, which is all about black hair. And we've been, there's a number of law firms that have adopted it, and we've had a conversation about it. Is it right for us? What's the reason for this Halo Code? Is the way in which people, wear their hair in our firm, is it an issue? Is it such an issue that we need to publicly say we have got a Halo Code? So definitely, I would definitely rebut your comment there about is it just jumping on the bandwagon? I think there are people, there are organisations out there that may be seen as jumping on the bandwagon, but I would just call it being late to the party. As such, they've got a lot of catch up to do.
Actually, not. Yeah, very much so. And
Nikki,
and I wanted to
as well.
Is that Hannah?
And Nikki, could I add something to what Yatunde says? Completely agree with Yatunde. We've had some very open and clear discussions, which I think many people wouldn't be able to have in their businesses. But I think also, as Yatunde is saying, I think people shouldn't be criticised for being latecomers to this, because I think if we all look around and we're honest with ourselves, you look at the construction industry, you look at the websites of construction businesses that have had diversity policies for years. You can look at any panel, look at who's on the board of businesses, look who's in charge, look who's earning the most. It's clear diversity is not happening organically. It's not happening over time. We need to actually intervene and make it happen. So I think even if people are latecomers, you know what? You're welcome. Get cracking, because we all need to.
Now, I did want to come back. Thank you, Teresa. But it's because of this way we've got our screen. I'd missed you at the end. So apologies for that. And again, I think it's really interesting. I'm sure there are lots of points coming through. Thank you for everybody. Continue to bring them in. But I wanted to go back really to both Teresa or Yatunde. You could answer this one about the Halo Code, just in case people aren't really aware what that is. And I suppose I'm at the moment, I feel like I'm rocking it in terms of the natural hair. And I gather from why that is important is because possibly 5, 10, 15 years ago, a Black woman wouldn't feel comfortable to have her natural hair out, which may still seem very bizarre to many who are even watching and being part of the discussion this afternoon.
Yeah, believe it or not, when I was a student, I was told that having curly hair was not professional. And a lot of people have been given similar advice as young, before we sort of enter into the workplace. You know, you can't have your hair in the way that it naturally is, because that's unprofessional. I mean, that's just remarkable. You just think about it. I mean, if it wasn't true, it would be funny in a way. But basically what the Halo Code is all about is recognizing that we should be entitled, anyone should be entitled to wear their hair naturally. And I think there was a lot in the press, Yetunde knows a bit more about this than me, a lot in the press about young school children and being forced to conform to particular hairstyles. And I mean, Yetunde, do you want to jump in on that point? Because I know you know about that one. But basically the Halo Code is meant to be a recognition of a workplace that welcomes diversity and welcomes, you know, black hair to be worn naturally or in any way that people want to.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the case that Teresa's referring to is a young schoolgirl in London that got sent home because of her afro hair. I mean, how ridiculous is that? You know, it is absolutely ridiculous. And the whole issue is that as a black person, you know, you may have a weave one day, you may have plaits another day, you know, and people, you know, will often say, who are you? Just because you're wearing your hair, you know, in a different way. And that's what the Halo Code seeks to address.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting point, and it's come up because I think there's a comment. Thank you, Dee. We've got a lot of questions coming in from Dee Garbaletto. Thank you very much, Dee. And you just said, you know, it's difficult. I understand what you're saying in terms of it finding difficult to talk about it, but these are the little things that for many people have thwarted their discussion, their feeling of being included within their firm. And all four so far, especially Carletto, saying, look, we want all of you to be recognized and feel part of the team. And if something is your hair feels as though it's stopping you, then it's great to have a conversation that begins to say it's in the mix. And Dee, you've also gone on to ask this in particular towards Hannah. And Hannah, the question being put to you, whether or not you feel privileged. And I'll just see if I can find it properly so I can make sure I'm not overlooking it in a way. But Hannah, I think, yeah, there was a point about being privileged, and both you and Dens, how you help others in the diverse communities to achieve their dreams and career goals. So that's what I'm reading through here. You are both probably in the best position to understand and do this, as you've both have lived experiences. So
yeah, definitely. So I think, you know, just going back 10 years, just to say that even myself from personal, I've faced challenges in the workforce. So just to give you an idea, and we talk about hair, but even, for example, I've got tattoos. Now that's a big no-no in the workforce 10 years ago. And I've always had to really disguise myself as a person. So tattooed, female and gay, I've hidden that for such a long period of time. And it's really been in the last few years where I'm so comfortable in my working environment. And now I think myself and Dens are the co-chair, and we've been through these journeys ourselves from a personal level. We are in a position where we can drive the change, and we're doing it as well. Some of the things that we've achieved in a matter of weeks since we've really launched these networks is phenomenal. We've grown our network to 500 people in a space of 10 weeks. That's incredible. You know, we never aspired to that, but we're growing this network. And just on a slightly different subject, we're creating this platform and a space for people to be, you know, 100% themselves at work. And in the last 2 weeks, we've had 3 people in our work who are going to be transitioning, 1 male to female and 2 female to male. I'm incredibly proud and humbled, and you know, this is now happening. You can be yourself at work, and we're just building that environment and creating that. So we're definitely, I'm humbled. I don't know if privilege is the right word, because you know, I don't see this as a job. This is something I'm passionate about, and we're all heavily invested in making the change. Yeah. And that's one of the good things about our steering committee. Every single person is so committed to make change, and that's why the change is happening.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, Nikki, I think someone asked in the question Q&A about, you know, how are we using our lived experiences to attract and enhance people's experience in the organisation? And I think doing just this. I think sometimes people underestimate how much time and personal development you need to be on a platform such as this. Myself and Hannah and the other teams, we've got a committee behind us, that we've built in the organisation to ensure that we are giving people voices, and that's, uptaking for me. That's fantastic. I've got a route directly into my president and to my CEOs, and that is enabling me to raise awareness for people who have any issues and being a part of the change that Hannah said. So, I could have got this role and sat down and done nothing, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm ensuring that I'm delivering the messages, I'm listening to our employees, and I'm doing my best whilst doing my day job to raise the awareness and to make a change. So
a question, and I know all of you again, by all means, but a question that's coming from Liz. Hi, Liz. Thank you very much for being here today and for joining in. And I'll bring you in, Carlo, on this one. How do you explain to people who think they are inclusive that they may, however, still have blind spots? Have you got any ideas? And all of you can chip in, but I'll start with you, Carlo, on that.
Yeah, I read that question, and I was just thinking about it. First of all, let me just say that, as Hannah, I have several tattoos. I'm vegan, I am sober, and I am gay. So you can imagine and I feel privileged though. I'm not denying that I don't have privilege as being a white male. It's how to use that privilege that makes a difference. I'm conscious that society, has given me chances that has not given to other people. But it's, first of all, it's not being in denial of that makes me probably different from other people. And that is actually the answer to that question. It's difficult to approach someone that says, oh, I've been inclusive, but there's always that but at the end that you're expecting, and you're like, oh my God, here it comes. Being yourself is the first way of showing someone that they have work to do. So correct them, speak up, being an ally. Being an ally means sometimes get in trouble because you have to stand up for what you believe that it's right. So if you hear a joke that you don't agree upon, just say it. Don't walk away. Just say, you know what, I don't find that joke funny, and this is not this is not what you should say. And just show it that you stand with your with your beliefs, with what you think that's right.
Somebody else can jump in off this, but I'll just read this comment here from Maria. Hi, Maria Murray. You say it's safe to say that everyone faces challenges at work. So value each person individually for who they are and never make assumptions on face value. For the new generation of workers, these movements are so important to establish now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry,
no,
James,
I was going to say, to add to Carlo's point, I think there's two things. I've been getting quite involved in both sides from my experience and how I'm helping the organisation move stuff forward. And the organisation can put governance, process, network groups, all of that together, right? But us as individuals, whether we think we've got biases or not, we all have, okay? So I think there's an element that we as individuals, to enable us to have the best experience at work, whether you're black, white, Chinese, whatever you are, you have to go out there and learn about someone else or something else, because that's what will make the change. We can't sit here as a REACH committee, BAME employees of CBRE and say, we're okay, because that's actually going the other way, which is creating groups that are not making an inclusive environment. So we are constantly trying to push ourselves to ensure that both sides of the spectrum feel equal, and everyone feels a part of this change, because it's really, really important that us as individuals take that learning and push that through.
And the key message we're driving, Dens, as well, is that willingness to learn. It's as simple as that. I'm learning so much, even as the co-chair of the Proud Network. I'm talking to Dens and Chris, who's Dens' counterpart. I'm learning about the REACH network. And that's the difference. If you just don't tackle the subjects, you're not going to learn. We have to go out there and learn. That's the only way we can create the change.
Oh, Teresa, I want to bring you in because, and in light of a little bit of what we've had before, the conversation we've had before, Trowers and Hamlin have said, and Yetunde, you said that from day one, in terms of the senior management, people were much more accepting. There was an open conversation, and I'm sure this is still going to come through, because there'll be still many of us here in this discussion and part of this afternoon's conversation that says, yeah, but there's still a couple of guys who are not a Carlo, as in recognize that they are white male and realize that privilege. So how have you made it really work in Trowers and Hamlin, where you genuinely saying we've always recognized that we should take people for their equal value and talent rather than put an assumption in about their race or their gender?
Well, I think, if I may, Nikki, let me just start with the privilege point. I think this is an important point to discuss initially, which is that privilege is, to me, multifaceted, and it changes. So, for example, you know, Yetunde and I might regard ourselves as privileged now because we're partners, we're senior women in the business, but that wasn't always the case, of course. And, you know, if I look at myself, I was the first person in my family to go to university at 18, but both of my parents educated themselves as adults, and my dad ended up with a PhD, my mum ended up with a master's. So whilst on one metric, I may seem like I'm, you know, not in a particularly privileged position, I actually was, because of the education that my parents put themselves through. So I think what we have to recognise is things like contextual recruitment and looking at the context of different people. And that's something that Trowers is very good at. We have to recognise there are a range of factors that may impact on people and they may change throughout their lives. And I think that's something that Trowers has historically been good at even before it became a thing. So we have recognised what we want to do as a business, and we've always worked very heavily in the charity sectors, working for social developers, working for clients with social purpose. So for us, this has all been very natural in terms of understanding what we want to contribute as lawyers. So then when Trowers Includes came along, you know, that was very much a sort of gathering up on all of these different things. And so what, you know, the way we've made it work is, as Yetunde hinted at, you know, the different networks, they don't just deal with, you know, celebrating particular events, which is of course important. What they are is a lifeline and a sort of informal group of people that can actually support each other, as well as the more sort of rigorous things. So we have, you know, the employee networks, we have film clubs, we have book clubs, we have cultural celebrations, we have food, we have all of that stuff. But we've also quite forensically looked at ourselves as a business. So we are looking, and we continue to look very carefully at things like mentoring in terms of lawyers' careers progression and other, you know, sort of aspects of the business. So it's not just about celebrating our culture because it's important. It's also about how do you end up becoming a partner yourself? How do you succeed in this business as a lawyer or as, you know, someone in business development or whatever other department? And we're also looking at things like, you know, what is our trainee cohort made up of? Are they happy? Are we going to keep them? Are they going to be successful? So what I'm saying is it's a sort of, I guess for Trowers, it's a twin track of our Trowers Includes diversity and celebration of inclusiveness, and also sort of forensic career progression. You know, how are we going to make this work and how are we going to keep our talent? So the two hand in hand, really.
And I think that's extremely key across the board, because I'd say the impact of lockdown and pre that, I think it's really changed people's thinking and of what are we actually going to do. Thank you to Peter. I'm jumping through two things here to everybody, but Peter, thank you very much. Just a little of what you've already said there, Teresa, with yours, and I'm sure Carlo or Hannah or Denz can say something for CBRE, in the sense that it's interesting to get the panel view of why some of these corporate sectors, especially construction and real estate, have such low diversity numbers compared to other sectors. And just to acknowledge Dee, thank you very much, Dee. You're very busy today, Dee. I'm appreciating this. Dee, you just said that you wanted to say never be embarrassed about privilege, just use it well to be a better person, to help others less fortunate to make a difference and changes. Thank you for that, Dee. But go back to that question from Pete, Carlo, Hannah, or Denz. You know, how comes it seems a struggle for construction and real estate to attract diversity, especially if we look at it in the obvious form of Black and brown faces? Let's start with that initially.
Yeah, I think it's a historical thing, right? I do believe that, you know, to Teresa's point about how Trowers is trying to attract and retain their talent is almost similar, scenarios that we're doing, whether we're investing in new platforms, particularly like you say, virtually, we've had to challenge ourselves as an organization around how we engage with our workforce to keep them motivated and inspired while they're working from home. So that's an important thing to say, that we're doing similar things such as mentorship, training and development online, and all those great stuff. But if I look back 13 years ago, talking from my own experience, it was the awareness. It was the lack of the awareness. I kind of grew up in Southeast London, and ultimately my parents didn't go to university, and I had a different sort of upbringing, and this just wasn't something that I even thought I could do. I actually, interestingly, aspired to get into the legal sector, and actually be sort of like a legal secretary and make my way through the legal pathing, and as I said, through the referral, ended up going into FM and absolutely loved it. So I do just think, which we are trying to work on at the moment, is going out to schools. We have an early careers program, which we've had for a number of years, whereby we are attracting apprentices and graduates into our organisation to give them a way in, an entry level way into our business, to then be opened up to all of that opportunity. But it is all about the awareness. It is all about going into schools early. It is about putting ourselves on platforms such as this to get ourselves out there and known in the industry around attracting all sorts of people, because that's what creates creativity and results at the end of the day. So I just think it's due to the lack of awareness that people from a minority background can have careers in the FM technical services of the organisation. And particularly, we feel like the uptake always comes through from an apprenticeship engineering level, but it then stops sometimes from the managers, directors and above. So that's why by grade we're really trying to challenge ourselves to get that base data foundation. Like Carlo said, we're encouraging all of our staff to update their diversity details, so we can measure how well we are now, and then how well we'll do when we action all of our strategy.
Brilliant. I'm getting lots of responses, so please, after this, you jump in, Hannah, again in relation to that. Hello, thank you, Emma. I'm just hoping I see your full name, but I've just got Emma Coggs. I'm sure you've got to carry on, but hi, Emma. You said, hello, I represent architectural lighting designers in the UK and globally, and we're trying to attract more diverse talent, learning how to start conversations about that to open our doors. I bet you didn't even know we were an industry. Well, Emma, for me, no, but I'm sure probably on the panel, they may say, of course, we recognise a new architectural lighting design. You may put a note in, again, Emma, to say what that actually looks like for some others on the discussion who may not know about that. And Lungelo, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right as well. Could I just understand why business feels it's a struggle to attract diverse talent? Is this because all the resumes that they receive are from the same demographic? So again, Teresa or Yetunde, you've got the experience now being partners within Trowers and Hamlin's about what that could look like. Is there something in there that the CVs that come through?
Nikki, could I?
Yes.
Nikki, can I answer that point on the construction side, and then let Yetunde answer generally more?
Yeah.
I think one of the issues with construction is that the opportunities in construction have been consistently undersold. So frequently construction just comes up as an afterthought. If you've tried everything else, fall into construction. And I think that severely compromises the types of people that we attract. And even within, if you look at construction businesses, I think as someone has already flagged, there are so many different jobs you can have, from technical, engineering, project management, site-based, business development, finance, you could go on. And there's a huge variety in terms of domestic, international projects. One day you could be working on airports, another time you'll be working on HS2. That's the kind of legal work, for example, that we do. And it's just not getting through the vibrancy and variety of this sector. And I think there's this presumption you're always going to be site-based. We're not really sure what the entry requirements are. It's always going to be physical work. These are the sort of stereotypes that attach themselves to construction. And I think that inevitably will dissuade talented, diverse individuals, because they'll think, well, I'm not interested in doing that. I'm going to look elsewhere. Because let's not forget what this is about. It's about attracting talented, diverse individuals. This is not for one moment about lowering standards. I know a lot of people seem to act like that's what we're suggesting. We're not. We're looking for talent, and we need to, it's a two-way street. Why should they come and work for us? Are we telling them that clearly enough? And, and as the point I made earlier, you look at most construction businesses, even the big ones, look on their websites, you will not see diversity there. So if you're a talented, diverse individual, you're going to say, well, why would I go and work there? They're clearly not practicing what they preach. So, that's just my view on construction anyway, but I'll let you Tunde talk about law more generally.
Yeah, and Tunde, just before you jump in, but please hold your point to support in a way what you've just shared there, Teresa. Stephen, hello, Stephen Cole in the chat room here has said, construction has a preference for informal recruitment, which means if you do not have a contract within the sector, it's going to be difficult to get in. Hence why we are looking at making experience opportunities more visible. Also need a diverse group of ambassadors to go into schools. Thank you for that, Stephen. Yetunde.
Yeah, so in order to attract diverse talent, you've got to look at what your requirements are. So within the legal profession, there's a lot of focus on the top universities, the Russell Group universities. Why? If you only attract talent from those universities, possibly they're just going to look like the people who are recruiting them. So it's about where you advertise. It's about the schools that you go and talk to. So for example, I may say, as I have done, well, what about advertising with this recruitment agency? Because that's a very diverse agency in itself, and therefore it's likely to attract more diverse people. So I think organisations really need to take a deep look at themselves and look at what they require. Think about the contextualisation, which Teresa spoke about earlier, because that will bring to you perhaps people who have been to challenging schools or schools in challenging areas but have really succeeded. Whereas ordinarily, you may look over those people because they haven't gone to X school.
Yes.
And I also think that whole thing about nepotism, needs to stop. So, I've certainly experienced it where this partner or another partner has brought in little Johnny because Johnny is the son of, of a May down the golf club, and therefore, will I take them for a week's work experience? And my answer is no, I won't, not unless you present to me somebody from a diverse background who can also have that opportunity. And I think those kinds of things really need to stop, or they need to be challenged, or there needs to be a discussion as to why are we doing this?
Okay, wow, we've got so much. And is it Mesray? Mesray, hello, Mesray. Mesray, I'm checking both, darling. And it's amazing because you're all responding really well. So I'm looking at both the Q&A and the chat function as well to get responses in. We've got quite a few that have come in. And so let me read through some of those. What's a good way to bring people on an EDI journey who may be closed-minded about it or don't believe it's a priority? So somebody hold that one and make sure that one gets answered.
I've just seen the one about age from Oscar.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to come on.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
what's the impact of age? I'm in my late 40s. So just from my perspective, I've never seen any impact on age-related joining our business. Dens, you'll probably vouch for me as well. We've never seen any impact on that within CBRE.
Brilliant, thank you for that. Oh, good. And somebody that was from Lungello, I think I've got that one, Lungello there. And Lungello, you've got a really good point that you said to Teresa. Teresa, apparently you're now the next best thing, darling. You need to be an ambassador. Stephen wants you to get out there and get into schools. Can you get on board with him? But Langula, sorry, has said, you're a chartered surveyor. So you said personally as a chartered surveyor, you agreed with what Teresa said rather. I always scan the websites of potential employees. I look at the make of the business. And if there's a glass ceiling for women or POC, I don't bother. I also study their LinkedIn pages, go through their posts over the last 3 years to see if they recycle the same posts for Women's Day, which I'm sure is very true. And if they have a growing LGBTQI network or support, if they comment or take a stand on any social issues related to diversity and not simply a post of support. So I gather that's what many of us probably should be doing when we're looking at even, the other way around. We're looking at companies and say, well, what are they actually putting out there to ensure that you can see a molecule of support when it comes to EDI. We had this from Abby on the Q&A saying, you mentioned recruitment through referrals. Do you feel this is an effective way to bring new people into business? Some feel that this may encourage stagnation as you will continue to hire similar people and limit diversity in what are traditionally white and male industries. So there was two things there, wasn't there, everybody, about bringing people on the EDI journey. And then again, I think, Teresa, you've shared a little bit about that, but the recruitment, how can that change?
Yeah, I'll touch on, I think someone touched on the referral element.
Yes.
I actually do think, yes, if that was the only facet of how organizations, you know, recruited and brought people into their organization, yes, potentially that could stagnate and you get the same people hiring the same people. However, if you create a more diverse workforce, if I was to refer someone, you know, you're getting that cross-pollination of different people coming into the organization. I do think referrals work well. I mean, you know, biased because obviously I've been recruited and came into the organization that way, but more because you get that sponsorship from that person who believes in you. And sometimes when you're kind of going into an interview cold, if you haven't got that right reference, sometimes that can daunt people depending on their particular background. But I think one thing, touching on what both the ladies mentioned about sort of the policies and how people are recruited into organizations and people changing how they do that. We've recently relaunched our talent principles for an example. We've always had a very consistent, fair approach to how we internally succession people and you know, internally recruit. But what we've now done is adapted that slightly to ensure that on both sides we have a diverse panelists and we have diverse candidates, because obviously we recognize that certain grades in our organization is hard, you know, to get a diverse pool of people. But to your point, Nikki, it's about having that time and going out to different resource groups from all different diverse recruitment agencies to bring in that talent. I think in the past we've been quite fast paced and we just needed to get the job filled, and you know, you just think you make the best decision. But we've slowed ourselves down to ensure that we can apply our talent principles and ensure that fair, consistent process now allows for DE&I to be a part of that. So that's just sort of that on the referral and recruitment.
Thank you for that, Dens. Ian, thank you for responding as well. Ian Benjamin, you said, Teresa, in terms of what you were sharing before, Teresa's 100% right. It's also about trust. As a recruiter, I have spoken to countless Black and Brown employees who have lost faith in the application and interviewing process. Black and Brown professionals are tired of being prepared for interviews and going through the emotional stresses to be repeatedly forgotten or surpassed. And this is not just for external roles, but for internal roles too. So the messaging in the jobs, the reach out from recruiters needs to be authentic. The language in the jobs description also needs to be looked at so that trust is restored, as it's lacking. And so many capable people have the mindset of staying in their lane, which sickens him. Thank you for that. And another point, again, I suppose referring to placements, but I think all of you in some shape or form have touched on this, but you may want to pick it up again. I'm Mani Roro, who you've put a question in here. Why is it so difficult to get training contracts or work experience to enable Black and Brown candidates to get placements? I do know many Black and Brown people who are keen to work in the construction industry, so it's not for lack of interest. And everybody, I tend not to go with BAME. I always tend to just say Black and Brown people, because it makes it a little bit clearer. So anybody want to have a point on those two? I'm just scanning again, just in case I'm not missing anything. From Anthony, you're saying it's a great discussion. Interested to know what the panel feels are the challenges with retaining the talent, as I was surprised to see that in the heading of the subject. Oh, thank you, Anthony Cole. I don't know if anybody wants to pick up on that. Carlo, what would you like to say about the retaining of talent, but also, you know, you may want to have a comment about the contracts that people are feeling are difficult to get hold of if they're Black and Brown.
Yeah, actually, the retaining and the acquisition of talent is something that is very close to my heart, because I ask talent companies actually what they thought about the construction. Some of the construction company did exactly what we have discussed so far. So the idea that that CBRE would only look for one type was were embedded in even in the talent firms. And what we're doing actually, we're, as I think what Theresa said, we're looking into other type of talent firms, you know, the diverse talent firms, and that's to just bring our concept that CBRE and other construction companies, other consultant company are changing their view, are changing what you know what they are looking for, and so we're working with the talent companies on that. In terms of retaining, though, I think that as I'm one of the line managers, and you know, at CBRE, and I'm an associate director, my first suggestion, my first advice would be to consider to build a relationship that goes beyond just the business to business, day by day. I approach my direct reports as someone that I would like to raise inside the company. So we have meetings that, especially during the pandemic, when we don't see each other every day, we have meetings in which it's forbidden to talk about work. We just talk about our mental health, how we feel, how our families are doing. You know, just because I'm their line manager doesn't mean that I don't suffer because my family's in Italy and I'm here by myself. And they do exactly the same things for me. So in terms of retaining the talent, I see that we all need to change the way we approach it. That stoic businessman, businesswoman etiquette, I don't think that it's actually, like, in 2021, it's not going to work anymore. We have the young generation coming in. They wanted to be informed, they wanted to be entertained, they wanted to be, they want to have buddies, and not just bosses. You know what I mean? Everybody hates, the boss.
Yeah, it's fascinating actually, because it's twofold. It's that genuine balance, and of course, because we've changed how we work, very much so. If you were office space and now that's been challenged and it's changed, then yes, that element of genuine fun and emotional support 100%. Is going to be much more important going forward. I'll just come back to some more comments, because we're going to take a what we call a commercial break. So we're going to have that to give us time to probably, especially the panel, that's probably why you're thinking, why she's going off cameras, because I need a drink. So I'm having some water. But wow, Yetunde, and that was excellent. This is in response to the comments that you've given earlier. However, some of us don't have the power to help create work experience opportunities. It sometimes feels like my hands are tied, and I have seen the little Johnny thing happen as well. Stephen, thank you very much. You're saying to the whole panel, Liz, 40 is not old. Too right, girlfriend. 40 is not old, especially when you get a bit older. It's still not old. Hi, Yinks. Yinks, you're saying, I attended a women in construction workshop at Inner London's Girls' School as a chartered project manager, organised by the contractor carrying out building works under my supervision. It helped the students see someone like me working in that field. One of the girls was teased by her friends for liking pink. And I said, do not let that put you off, that she can get pink, she can get a pink hard hat and boots. So I gather that again is something that, if that's what you want to embrace, please, what I'm hearing is that the organizations and constructions willing to do that. Shaynesia, you're saying, I love this, definitely scope out of the type of organizations or companies. Otherwise, we'll subject ourselves to be just the token person in the organization. And then I'll do a couple more as I skim right down. Tara, hello, Tara. You say, thank you, Yetunde and Teresa, for your perspectives. As a recent graduate, of one of the biggest struggles for me has not been able to get the jobs due to the lack of experience. How do we combat this? What can be done for this? As some of us have the passion and have tried to get experience, but fall at the same hurdles, such as not being from the Russell Group universities, not having the top grades and having those connections. And I think, Yetunde, you addressed that. And I suppose as our time goes on, and for all of us really, that will be the challenge across all industries, about really changing their thinking on what recruitment looks like and how you want to attract the talent that comes in. All of these things, though, we will come back to shortly. So please keep your questions coming in. I know the BPIC team as well will help me make sure I monitor what's happening so I don't miss anybody out purposely. But it's a joy that so many of us, look at that, 228 of us all together at this time. This is a joy to behold. But we're going to take a break. And we're going to have a presentation from Umair Mansour, who is the construction helpline. We've got a presentation coming in with that, and then we'll return to our discussion. Oh, actually, apologies, after the commercial break, we will be hearing actually from Amos Simbo, who is the chair or the founder of BPIC, and we'll have a presentation from him, and then we'll carry on with more questions and answers from our panel. So over to you, Umair.
Thanks, Nikki. It's such a pleasure to listen to all the panelists and how they have sort of shared their view around diversity, inclusion, and in terms of the getting people back to work. I represent Construction Helpline here. We've been trading over 10 years, trained over 200,000 learners for their skills training and also health and safety and CSCS cards that they could get and get on site. We've recently got into partnership with BPIC, which is sort of born out of supporting the industry to be more inclusive and diverse. And it's a year-long program that we are running with them, where we are supporting every month 2 training courses to free of charge to the individuals working in the industry who will be presented or come from BPIC Network. The whole idea behind this diversity and inclusion is something that we believe in passionately. We want to change the statistics, which are dire at the moment. There is only 7% representation of Black professionals in the industry, and also only a staggering 2% of Asians that are in this industry. I would like to sort of cover up in this that currently there's a lot of things that are happening around this. But one barrier that is there is getting competent workforce onto the site and making sure that everybody has got the right sort of skills, that they are working and getting on a site with that skill. We offer a one-stop solution where there is a testing, training, and courses, and then you get a card all together in one place instead of going different places. There are a lot of sort of funding options that CITV has come along as well, where they have sort of offered a lot of training courses, funded training courses for anybody who wants to work. There is funding that is available as well for people who want to upskill themselves. So yeah, get in touch with us. We would be happy to support you, either funded, non-funded courses, and also to get you back onto site. And if you want to come through BPIC as well, that's more than welcome. We're also looking at other options with BPIC to see that how we can support the sort of more diversity and inclusion in the industry.
Brilliant. Well, fascinating to hear that. Thank you ever so much, Umar. I really do hope those of you who are with us today, and even if you've got family members or friends who you really know could benefit from being part of this, and please do make sure they get in touch. Thank you again, Umar. So let's then carry on with Amos Simbo, who it's a pleasure to see him here today. This is, of course, in a sense, part of his work, why BPIC Network was set up to help bring construction organizations and industry fellows and colleagues together to raise awareness of what is out there in terms of the workforce. So let's have our short presentation then from you, Amos. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. Not gonna have a presentation. I'm just gonna sort of talk through it to sort of maintain to the theme. But generally, it's been fantastic. The work we've been doing for BPIC now for just over a year now, since we started. As many of you that have come on the journey with us, a lot has changed since then, since we started, and the work we're doing in the industry now is sort of, widened up to all the different sectors, essentially extending our reach to the entire built environment. Some of the work we've been doing, since we launched is, partnering with organizations, trying to learn what the best practice is to improve, inclusion within our industry. Some of the topics we've been discussing on here, on the workplace itself, there's one element of entry, and then there's an element of retention. Creating that environment that people want to stay in. We'll be working on that. I think there's a gentleman called Ian that mentioned the fact that the attraction piece itself sometimes can be stressful. We're looking at what are the best practices, what are the best industry practices to do that. At the same time, we've been engaging with our network, actually trying to listen to people to say, what's attracting you to BPIC Network? What would you like us to do within the industry? What would you want to see from us? And what can we do better? And a lot of that. So essentially, what that does is our solutions are not just made up. It's just essentially what the network wants to see. And that helps a lot, because even for organizations who are looking out there, because sometimes, people are sort of looking for answers. We can help as well in actually, saying what, how people are feeling out there. So that's been the major part of what we're doing. And then we've also got a team that looks after the talent acquisition, line for BPIC Network, and helping the industry to tap into talent. So in a moment, I'll let Kobe sort of touch on that, because he leads on that side of things. But generally, the work we've been doing so far has been hard at the start, but at the same time, it's gratifying. And the team we've got behind us is really fantastic. There's 6 of us, and the numbers just coincidentally struck up. It's 3 guys, 3 girls, all industry experts. In knowing what the industry is, because I think our industry is special in that you have to be in it sometimes to actually understand what's going on, how people speak. It's an industry where you've got essentially 2 offices. Your actual office, and then your building site, where you actually is your office as well. And they're 2 different environments. The cultures there are different. So with some of the projects we've been working on, it's actually looking at the site environment, or other than just the office. When people go to sites, how can that be also more inclusive? During inductions, during the site practices that you take, toolbox talks, et cetera, et cetera. And the industry, from what I've seen so far, has been really receptive. It might be the timing, whatever, but the journey so far has been good, and it's been collaborative. So without wasting too much time, I can see Nick is staring at me. I'll pass on to Kobe, and Kobe will hopefully make it shorter as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kobe Boachi. I'm the Director of Talent within BPIC. I will make this short, Nikki, and I'll get through this really quickly. I've heard everything that everyone's been saying, and I find it very helpful that everyone's on different journeys, and everyone's got a different perspective of how we attract talent. Here at BPIC, our main objective is to bring as much diversity into the industry. And we've been able to prove that by our network being able to supply clients with great talent that's out there, and also provide candidates with opportunities with some of these amazing organizations that have struggled to tap into some of the talent pools that we've been able to navigate through. So this is something that we are priding ourselves on, and we're going to continue to make that happen, and break down some of the barriers that may have been there previously, and obviously take a lot of these clients on the journeys that they need to, so that they're a bit more inclusive and able to benefit from diversity of thought, diversity of talent, diversity of everything, essentially. So that's one of the things that we do. And just wanted to advise people that they could register on our job portal for any opportunities that we are currently advertising. If you're of a early in your careers, there's opportunities within Barrett's currently that they're offering a lot of apprentices. There's also opportunities on the HS2 projects that we're working on. So you can also find some of those roles there, and there's going to be many more apprentices at graduate roles that are going to be available. There's also going to be a lot of early careers and skilled professional opportunities that are going to become available over the time. I'm a project manager from background, and there's a lot of project management roles that I'll be sharing with our audiences over time as well, consultancy sides, QSs, you name it. There's going to be a lot more roles that are going to be available. And after this, we'll also ask you to fill out a survey that will just highlight some of the key information that you are, that represents you and your journey. So yeah, that's me, Nikki. Thanks for having me, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Kobe, much appreciated. And QS, I gather, maybe a quantity surveyor.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. You know, because there's jargon and there's jargon. You know, we always have our own little jargon. Everyone's like, No, thank you for that, Kobe. Lovely to have met you, and thank you for your time. And I think you've helped as well answer a question here that's from JL. Hi, JL from DNW Construction. You said, how would BPIC support, in fact, how would BPIC support Black and female businesses into the industry? Kobe, I don't know if you can come back on that one, actually, because I thought you'd answered it, but actually when I saw Black and female.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Amos, you can ask it. Go ahead.
No, carry on, Kobe, sorry.
So I was just going to say, when it comes to Black and females into the industry, we obviously, BPIC, our aim is to bring as much diversity into the industry. We understand that Black women have a strong part to play in construction, in the property industry, in any industry, essentially, to be honest. I don't want anyone to suffer from imposter syndrome, thinking you're up to the job. Everyone's capable of doing the job, no matter what their gender is. And we can definitely help with providing these opportunities and bringing you to a position where you know that you can do that, building up your confidence and all of the above, just to make sure that you are the right candidate for the role.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and what I just wanted to add, Nikki, was just to say, on the Black and minority-owned businesses, I forgot to mention, but there's quite a lot happening on that side. So in the first instance, I think one of our events after this is going to be centered around that. What we're essentially creating is, a portal for Black and minority-owned businesses that we can then facilitate to connect to projects, so that there's a huge demand when it comes to, big infrastructure projects. I'm sure you all saw, the announcement that Rishi Sunak made with this whole infrastructure boom that's going to happen. And what's happening now is, on some of the tender requirements, organizations need to display how they're diversifying the supply chains. And we're acting as a solution to that in saying, here's a place where you can showcase some of those opportunities for those business leaders to then connect with. And then secondly, we're actually working to give those business leaders skills. Money is good when you're starting a business, but some of the valuable asset when you're building a business is that knowledge of how to run it, how to manage your mental health, how to manage your finances. A lot of people that start business is because they're really passionate, they can make things happen, but perhaps lack the other skills that business actually needs. You start dealing with a lot more things that you perhaps not aware of, as a normal person. So giving those skills, we've been working with organizations both in the construction and the real estate, we signed up a partnership with AM Bid. They help businesses when they're tendering for opportunities. So why you need to put in a tender, how you need to highlight yourself, best way to sell yourself, all that sort of stuff. Sometimes even including pricing. People don't really. It's not everybody that knows, including myself. I've had in the past, people would actually tell me, include things like retention. If you don't know that, you just don't know it. So it's giving those practical skills to actually the business leader. And our next event is going to be with Waits and a few other organizations in and around the Parliament project. That's been the restoration and renewal project. So there's a lot more coming on that. And this year, we really want to promote minority and Black-owned businesses because number one, it's giving the skills, but the volume is not too large. So if you can help more people that want to start their businesses, that will essentially enhance it. So thanks for raising that up, Nick.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much. And everybody, you know, those of us in discussion, I know, of course, many have had to start moving on. So we appreciate your time. And hopefully before we do finish, you've had some of those answered. Thank you, Kobe, because you put at least the link to BPIC in your in the chat function there. I'll just read it out just in case not everybody can get to see this. bpicnetwork.com/job-portal or job-portal. That's the information for construction helpline. Thank you for Shirley for putting that in. Rudy, you asked that question about where all the jobs being advertised. Again, there's one here that I'm not sure of, but are you working with MSD UK? Does that ring any bells for Kobe or Amos?
I think that's for me.
Yeah.
Amos. Yes, we've been sort of collaborating with them in sort of so MSD UK. What they do, for people that know, they is essentially a business that looks after minority-owned businesses, but just not in the built environment, across all industries. Whereas we are more concentrated on the built environment. So obviously, by sort of initiating the conversation to work with them, we're adding depth to what they do. Whereas they've got the width of of the entire industries, all the industries. And for us, is having the knowledge of the industry, having so essentially that's what we're adding to them. So yeah. we've been in talks with them, and should be making something happen very soon.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, and thanks to the Mayor. Thank you for putting up as well. The constructionhelpline.com is the one that you need, where we had our little bit of a commercial break. So we're going to come back to our discussion with regard to our title, in a way, attracting and retaining diverse talent. But really, I suppose we're having a much broader conversation about what it really looks like to have a diverse workforce, to have equality, to have inclusion. And a reminder of the panelists, we've got Teresa Mohammed and Yetunde Danya. They're both partners with Trowers and Hamlin. We have Dens and Hannah, Dens Firth and Hannah Farman. They're sales directors and associate directors, CBRE. And also Carlo, I was going to say his surname Carlo, but I know I probably pronounced it incorrectly. So Carlo, the lone Italian, because everyone's back in Italy and he's here. With his tattoos. That's what I remember. Carlo Coloni with his tattoos. So let's bring it back to some of the questions, because there's quite a few that's come through. And there was one actually I wanted to put to you, Hannah, in a way, because it was sparked really by that last question that I put to Amos about Black and female businesses for the industry, but just female, because you're open with your sexuality, and somebody put something before about privilege, and would you say that you're privileged? So I just wanted to hear what it's like for you when you are probably hearing, and we've had some of this already, about you can focus on one area but you forget about the other. So in your role, especially as co-chair of Proud, how do you even see the diversity when it comes to the LGBTI? I'm sure I've got that wrong way around. Apologies for that. Because that in itself will mean there's going to be things that throw up. If a Black woman comes in and she says she's lesbian and she's in the workplace, or a Black guy who's homosexual or trans, how do you negotiate some of that side of diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, and Nikki, there was someone mentioned something, I think it was in the comments, about experience, and they keep getting rejected for jobs because of lack of experience. Can I just touch on that briefly? Just
yeah, please, and then go back to it.
Just want to kind of backtrack 10 years ago, basically, and because I was in exactly the same position. So went to school, did my GCSEs, did my A-levels. This was the era where it was expected to go to university. I chose not to, but every single person from my school went to uni, and I chose not to. I wanted to work from a very, very young age. Literally, as soon as I turned 13, I was pressing my parents to give me a paper round so I could go out and work and things like that. So when I left school at 18 up until literally 7 years ago, I'm really ambitious. I really wanted to succeed, and I was getting rejected for every single job. So that's 15-year period, every single job I got rejected.
Wow.
I tried applying for every single office role, you name it, and yeah, it was just rejection. One, tattoos. That played a huge part in it. I wasn't seen as I could be placed in a work environment, which, when you kind of have that for 10 years, and it got to the point where for my first 10 years of my career, I had jobs where I worked for IKEA, working on the tills, because that was the only thing that I could get a job for. When I finally got into an office environment, the job role that they gave me was photocopying. Now, I had 4 A-levels and education enough to warrant more than that. So I understand that comment on that fear of, or the rejection that you get as you're going through, and it is frustrating. And my only advice on that is you keep chipping away, you keep persevering, and you finally find a company that will make you excel. And that's exactly what happened for me within CBRE, which is why it creates that loyalty to the business, because I was never perceived as the person with tattoos. I was perceived on my ability at work, hence why I went up the career chain. So that just touching base on that comment, I completely get that frustration when you're trying to apply for a job role and they say lack of experience, or you're going through the whole process only to be rejected down the line. So just wanted to touch on that. It's happened. And, I'm in a successful position within my business now. I work probably too hard, I'll say that, but I work too hard because I'm incredibly loyal to the support that I've had. Therefore, my career is set within CBRE. So just wanted to touch on that point. And then, sorry, just going back to the question, can you just ask your question again?
Yeah, so it was, I was saying about, there you are, you're co-chair now of Proud. And it's been sparked off by the Black female, how do you handle when a Black female may come to you, says they're gay and they're in the workspace, a Black male, homosexual, or someone who's trans? You've touched on it a little bit, but
yeah, I think myself and Carla will probably joint answer that. So firstly, our platform that we've created, I don't want to speak too soon, but it's actually becoming, it's very normal conversation that's happening now. And we've, like I said earlier, we've created this platform where people are comfortable and confident to come out at work. And we've seen this happen, in a huge manner over the last 10 weeks. So if those conversations happen, it's kind of getting to the point where it's, okay, we're not really, I mean, Carla, what's your views on this? Because you work in a separate part of the business. Ours is FM, and we're, I genuinely think we've built this incredibly successful, diverse area, but Carlos is in a slightly different part of the business himself.
Yeah, well, I think,
Carlo?
Yes, I agree with Hannah. It's becoming a CBRE conversation. Do you know what I mean? Because we acknowledge the difference in ethnicity, we acknowledge the difference in gender identity and sexual preferences, but it's actually, for just an example, I was asked to raise the rainbow flag inside of my floor by one of the leadership, and he stopped me in the corridor and he says, "Are you doing something for June?" And I was taken by surprise, because I was like, wait, this is one of my leaders asking me if I'm doing something. It should be the opposite. So this is how we this is how we're getting on with inclusivity. And I want to answer one of the questions that I was reading before, and it's related to what I'm saying about mentoring, and BPIC. BPIC offers mentoring as well. I'm taking Amos' job right now, and offer mentoring, and CBRE does the same. And it's important that we're putting out there, because there are two. One is the direct mentoring. The second one is actually the mentoring from someone who actually is not an executive, mentoring the executive. So the reverse mentoring is becoming more and more important. So there were questions about how do we change the leadership? How do we, those people who don't think like us? Well, that's how we do it. That's how we do it internally now. So I wanted to make sure that people are aware that we're not just doing this.
And I think Carlo and Denz, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that all of our senior leadership team have got a reverse mentor in place now. So we are seeing that happening. It's not just talk the talk. We're actually actioning it, and we're doing it, and we're learning as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Nikki, could I comment on that?
Yes, please, Teresa. Yes.
Nikki, the point you've raised, the intersectionality point, is absolutely key to this. Because if you think about all the different aspects to all of us and everyone watching that make us different, make us diverse, very few of us just have one thing going on. And that's why I'm saying that, and we've been saying that this is a moving target. This is something that has to change and evolve in terms of how we address diversity and inclusion, because different aspects of who you are may be relevant at different times, all at once, or some things more relevant than others. So for example, for me, I'm a mother of 2 young children. At certain times in my life and my career, I've needed more support because I've been on maternity leave and returning to work. So at that time in my life, being a mother was the sort of pressing issue, being a returner to work, trying to be a partner with young children. Those were the issues that were really all the aspects of my life that were the most challenging. Whereas in other respects, it may be my race. And so I think that's something that that you really hit the nail on the head. That is something that we need to think about, because it is the combination of these factors that can play to foster discrimination. So that is why we all need to be very alive to intersectionality and try and understand it, and understand how the combination of factors will change over time, will be more important at different times, and how anything that we try and do has to address that.
Yeah, because it's interesting you say that, Teresa, because I sit here as a woman who's getting to that lovely number where what I call the internal heater system is playing up. And you're beginning to realize that you're right. I am now juggling something very different that I didn't think I'd have to. And so you're not only thinking about your role that I have. I gave up a managerial teaching role to go become self-employed and do this, host events as part of my kind of CV of work. But also, and I think this is key to lots of us here probably in the discussion, there are things that are going on for you that you actually now realize you fit into another group. So I'm now on the cusp of fitting into the other group of what women go through. And that in itself is quite challenging, because you now are juggling, I'm Black and I'm a woman of an age, I'm in that group. How do I make sure I'm still relevant to what else everybody else is offering? And we've had questions that come up to that, but Teresa, please. And Yetunde, come in. Is she still with us?
I didn't really have anything to add other than it's important just that people are aware of even the concept of intersectionality. When I heard of it, I completely new to it, but I've taken it upon myself to learn a bit more about it, and it's an important concept to understand.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you.
Sorry, on that point, Yetunde, as well, Yetunde and I have been learning about lots of different things as part of our roles at work and part of Trowers Includes, and that's another reason why understanding contextual recruitment and understanding, across the board diversity is important, because, for example, we've been learning loads about trans rights and all sorts of other things that actually make you understand the bigger picture. So that's why it's important for us to educate ourselves, not just about our own issues, but about those affecting others.
And that's how we make the world a better place, because you don't just do D&I and that understanding in the workplace. You take it home. It affects what you see at home and the things that you challenge at home. And that's, personally, I think that's how we start making the world a better place. If it isn't in your DNA, if you're true to it and not just doing it to get a promotion or some other form of recognition, if it really does resonate with you, it will play into your life at home.
It's whether, Yetunde, it's whether you want to realize that you need to at times be selfless rather than selfish. And I think for a lot of us, that's the challenge going forward. Thank you, everybody who's responding. Let me just go through some of the comments that are coming through. Thank you, Hannah, for sharing your story. This is from Tara Cowling, and your advice. I'm glad you're with CBRE and happy in your career now. I've just started my second week with Trowers, and I'm hoping to work my way up.
She has indeed. She has indeed. So welcome, Tara.
And your experience is really inspiring me. Apologies to people. They're all like, oh, sad, I've got to go for a call, leave to go for a call. Thank you, Teresa, for your point about becoming a mother whilst juggling being a partner. As a recent graduate, I do think about how my career will be affected if I wanted to start a family. Yes, I know. It's very it is a juggle. It is definitely a juggle. And another one, good advice, Hannah, from you. Really appreciate that. And another question that's come in here from Carolina or Carolina. What do you do when a junior professional, the few opportunities given are just to cover a quota? Okay, so rewind. What do you do when a junior professional is given a few opportunities just to cover a quota? I've been working in one of the biggest companies of the market, and while the economy was ideal, they were extremely happy to have me there and use my image as an example of diversity and inclusion. However, as soon as the pandemic came, they did everything they could do to force me to leave and protect those that fell or fall into the standards of their white team. So that's a point that you may, that's an experience that's been shared there. Thank you, though, Carolina, for putting that point in. Ryan, hi, Rahan Chowdhury, you're saying, are the CBRE talent acquisition managers being trained to hire from a diverse background? One of you, Carlo or Hannah or Dens rather, can come back to that one. And I'm just checking. When it comes to retention, what actions are organizations taking in order to ensure people are staying? What cultural shifts do you think are needed, and how can individuals working within companies contribute towards this? And in a way, all of you, I'd say, have answered some of that, but you may want to reiterate some of those points. But Carlo, I'll come to you about the acquisition question there that was put by Rahan Chowdhury there.
I think it was in terms of the training, right, for the talents. Yes. Training, so that's exactly what we're doing. There are mandatory courses actually that everybody has to take at CBRE, not only as part of the welcome package, but internally even for us as managers, and especially managing people, of course. So we are asked to take courses for in terms of educate ourselves in more diversity, and the panels themselves. When to be hired by CBRE, you have to go through a couple of interviews, and we recognize that of course one should be your director, whoever what it is, but at the same time we have to make sure that the candidates are feeling comfortable and they see faces that they can associate with, and CBRE being diverse, so the panel has to be diverse as well. So we are recognizing, and we're moving towards that direction.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think we as line managers in our organisation, it's not only down to the talent resource managers to attract talent. We all take that responsibility as leaders and managers of the organisation to do. And there's a number of different governance and processes. We've recently actually launched a new system which will enable us to measure and track how we're putting offers out to the business, and also how that feedback is being presented back to the individuals who have applied for that particular role. And as Carlo mentioned, we've got a number of courses that are available, that some are mandatory. So, diversity, inclusion and belonging, confronting bias, thriving across our differences. a number of different courses that our organisation managers and employees have to undertake, almost sort of 2 to 3 months apart, you know, being in the organisation if you're new, and then obviously enrolled into that if you've been in the business for some time. So we're definitely embedding it in what we do every day. And even more recently, you know, all the managers in their objectives, their personal objectives, they have now 1 or 2 diversity, equity and inclusion objectives within that, which is all about promoting that within your division, your business, your team, attending events, you know, to raise that awareness and have those conversations. And us as the network co-chairs, we work tirelessly to try and, you know, create safe spaces for managers, leaders, employees to get involved to promote that.
I'm gonna thanks for that, Den, because I wanted to come back to something about if you're coming across colleagues who are just feeling tired. So I want to hang that there. All of you can come with that. And I'll just refer to some of the comments. Thank you, Corinne. Corinne Jones says, thank you, Nikki. I'm also going through it. And some days it's very difficult. Not half, my girl, not half. Marie, hi, Marie. Thank you very much for your point. You said, hi, brilliant discussion here. What are your thoughts on effective ways of engaging employees within an organization to think about inclusion and diversity and encourage allyship? And in a way, I think, Denzel, what you shared there, and Carlo and Hannah beforehand, all of you really, I think you've addressed some of that question, but you can come back to it. Yinks, I'm so sorry you've got to go for your training session. You're probably there now, but enjoy it. Appreciate you being here today. Elaine Lynch-Harewood, thank you very much. Elaine, you said you've got to pop off as well, but thank you. Really enjoyed the session. Really appreciate that. And Francis, you saying here, thank you, everyone. I can relate to most of the experience shared on this forum. As a recent graduate, a veteran and a father, I feel more needs to be done to attract and retain talent for Black and brown people. I will say bye for now, but we'll be happy if there's a catch-up or recording sent to the participants. There you are, Francis, and I'll find out before we go. And if there's one more on here, I'd said that thing about being tired and how that feels for some of your colleagues in the respective organizations that we've got represented. And then I'll come back to this question about after months of extreme struggle due to the pandemic. So let me just ask that to all of you really. Yetunde, you know, are you coming across some of your colleagues that feel as though you're getting a sense that they are tired? They don't really want to do this, or am I wrong in that statement?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, and it's something that I worry about. I became head of office, as I said, in January last year. I think I got appointed, my mum passed away, I came back from compassionate leave straight into the pandemic. And, you know, I'm really fortunate where I live, I've got outdoor space, but my worry has been for those people who are trying to homeschool or who have been trying to homeschool, those people who live by themselves. And so that's what my focus has really been. And I'm passionate about people in any event. So I've tried to do my latest initiative. I said to my partners, okay, and this is where diversity comes in. You know, I'm in a partners meeting and I'm saying, we're going to start having mashup meetings. If I said mashup meetings to my husband, he knows what mashup is. So everybody's like, what's mashup meetings? And I'm just like, we're going to mix everybody together and we're going to have some team meetings. And everybody, it's lovely because I'm getting people emailing me, I love the mashup meeting. I love the mashup meeting. So it's constantly trying to think of ways to keep people connected. My next biggest headache is about when we start going back into the office, because we're going to have a hybrid system. How are we going to make sure that everybody feels included in what's going on, the culture, and so on. But you know, throughout it, you know, I've been quite open with my experiences and what I've been going through. So, you know, as I said, the bereavement of my mum, and I, you know, in leadership positions, it's very easy to think that, oh, you've made it, therefore everything's okay. And I thought I need to let people know that it's okay to not be okay. And so I sent them a long email. It wasn't to get condolences. I didn't want that. I just wanted people to know that there are going to be times in your career, and especially throughout the last year when basically it's just been shit. right? You know, and so I've done the same thing. I've called up people and said, I'm having a tough day. Will you just work with me on the FaceTime? Just be there for me so that I can just feel somebody else working. And you know, it's just incumbent on us as employers to know that the most valuable asset that we have, forget the buildings, forget all of that, it's your people. Because if you create the right environment, they will be loyal and want to stay. And that's where that whole point, that piece about the inclusion part comes into it. Because if people really genuinely feel that their employer, you know, cares about them, they care about what they have to say, they want to include them, you will retain that talent. And to me, it's not just about attracting the talent, it's about what do you do with it when you have it. You need to look after it because it's your most precious asset, and you need to nurture it and grow it.
Thank you,
Nikki. If I could just jump on that, because mental health is a subject that's incredibly important to me for personal reasons, and I think we can all acknowledge that the last year has been incredibly tough. It has. We'd never have envisaged being in this situation, and you know, in our careers and in our life. And I think, you know, you acknowledged at the beginning the support of the frontliners. We've got many customers who have still been operating through the pandemic, and our staff are on the front line, and even down to like Nightingale Hospital, we've been heavily involved in that. And we've got this infrastructure across the UK where we've got frontline staff. We've also got everyone at home. And I think when we talk the mental health aspect, it's been absolute paramount within our business that we've recognised this since the beginning as well. We've got a really strong, we've got platforms around like Be Well initiatives. We've got mental health first aiders dotted around the whole business that are offering up support as well. And I think when we go back to work, we've got another transition to go through. We've got to think about the psychological aspect of returning to work. And, you know, from my personal experience, the first lockdown, the first week was, oh, I'm not in London, this is quite nice. And then reading the press and reading the media, reading everything that's happening, I went into a major anxiety attack moment and was fearful about going outside the house. And I'm already getting a little bit nervous about the days coming when I'm going to go back into the office. I have got major social anxiety at the moment. The thought of having to see a person face to face, I've got to start working on how I overcome that. And I'm one of many people across the country. So the hybrid model, going back in, you know, many customers are overtaking that, but we have to think about the psychological aspects. That's going to be key for businesses to support our people. And exactly the same as yourself, Sandy, our people are our product. That's the foundations of our business and our company. That's our number one priority. And I think this is going to be, it's not going to be another month of this. This is going to be the after effect of this is going to be years potentially.
Yes, very true, Hannah. I'd asked that question in twofold, in the sense of, yes, it's been a tiring period, and you still got to juggle. Have we got the right people in the right places? Are we making sure we've ticked the particular boxes, but not in the traditional sense as it appeared it was back in the day? But I think that's going to be really key. About a little bit of what Teresa, you'd already shared about that intersectionality of the different layers that have come up. And I think I've also sparked off a conversation for those in the organizations around women dealing with the menopause. Michelle has said, Michelle, he, him, is the panel aware of any good practices, of good examples of supporting colleagues going through the menopause? So we're going to have a lot of that juggle, not only, as you mentioned, Hannah, the psychological, mental, emotional well-being of our colleagues, but women who are going to be going through that in their lives, and it may never have been addressed. And I suppose, Teresa and Yetunde, more so for you being in that, my thinking, and I could be again making an assumption, as many may have done, that in a law firm you ain't got time to be having menopausal issues or period issues. You've got to just be focus. You if you're in it, you just get on with it. Am I wrong?
Nikki, that's quite interesting. I happen to be over 50. My team comprises of, I think, there are 4 or 5 of us that are over 50. Menopause is a conversation that we're having every day.
Okay.
And so I think it's, you know, I feel sorry for some of the junior members of my team, especially the guys. They are hearing about the experience of women from a very young age, and it will, you know, make them more rounded in the future. But, you know, all joking aside, it's an important aspect. I've raised it, and I've said to my gender work and family colleagues in that network, can you put something on for me, whether it's some mentoring from, you know, older colleagues that have gone through the same thing, because let's be honest, as women, we're all going to go through it. Yes, it was a taboo, but I think really now we really need to talk about it. So, you know, some people have shared some of their experiences, and I really do appreciate that. But I think it's, you know, I can't see why it can't be talked about as regular as, you know, whether it's an LGBT issue, a black and brown issue. It should just be everyday conversation. And you know, some of the things that we can do as employers, you know, to help people is not make comments when people are having a hot flush. Make sure that there's some handheld fans around the place. Make sure there's good ventilation. It's stuff that's really not rocket science, but employers just need to have a little bit of consideration around those issues.
Thank you for that. It seems to have gone down very well. That support, so important, Yetunde, to share when you're going through something tough. Previously, when you just shared there about your mom, especially as a leader, as that encourages empathy within the workplace. Hopefully, more junior members of staff will feel empowered to tell their managers when they're struggling. Shanesia, thank you. You said the human aspect coming from the top. This is it! Exclamation mark. Thank you, Yetunde. I send my condolences to you and your family as well. Well, I can't believe where the time has gone. It's coming up to it's just gone 2:15 here. And I hope you've all been blessed with the conversation that we've had here today. There's still some issues that we haven't touched into. Somebody had put in, I think Inez, hi Inez, Iona, you put in about how do we look at companies creating inclusive environments for people with neuro differences, whether they have dyspraxia or dyslexic or ADHD, you know, the adjustments that may need to be thought of there. I'm sure for all of you on the panel, those are conversations again that you're going to have to continue to have. Because if we are going to be genuinely inclusive, then we need to make sure we can do a lot of that as well, to make sure people are part of it. So thank you, everybody, for being here with us this afternoon. Many thanks to all on the panel. Again, let me just make sure I put everybody in there. Teresa Mohammed, thank you, Teresa. I think I'm going to put this down. It's because I've been scanning the questions, you see, at the same time. So Teresa, thank you ever so much. Teresa Mohammed, partner at Trowers and Hamlin, as well as Yetunde Danya, again, a partner there. Thank you both. I really appreciate your time and your honesty and your openness about your roles in your workplace there. To Dens, Hannah and Carlo, all of you there from CBRE.
I love that. I think I'm going to remember that.
Is that how we're going to announce ourselves all the time now?
I think just lift the shoulder, then you know. But it's been a joy to have had you on, and thank you for the work that you're doing to help raise the issues, and even as you shared there, more so Hannah and all of us, I would agree that going forward, these next coming months, if we thought lockdown was hard, the next coming months may be even trickier, because we've got to negotiate how we're feeling mentally, emotionally, psychologically, as well as ensuring that everyone is included. Sometimes that feels impossible, but it's, as I think Yetunde, you said that something about, if we genuinely care about having a world that looks as though it wants to support all, then we will do our utmost to make that happen. And my phrase that I use for me, let's sometimes be less selfish and be more selfless. And that approach, I'm sure, will take us further than we've been. Many thanks to all the team at BPIC, in particular Gift. Thank you very much, Gift, for getting us all organised and putting us all together. And to Amos as well, and Kobe for your contribution to it, to Umair for your lovely commercial break, for the construction helpline. I'm hoping and I'm praying that I see this, that if you want to get hold of this, and I'm sure if you just put BPIC into your Google search engine or to the search engine that you have, we can find out whether this session is going to be picked up on, because I'm sure for some of you it will be helpful. Please do, I think Carlo said that, and all of us have been saying it, but Carlo in particular said, you know, make sure you address those colleagues who are saying things that you think are not comfortable, they don't sit well with you. Address it there and then, don't leave it, because that's when we allow those seeds to grow. When those seeds grow, that's when we get the situation that has led to us making sure we don't have those situations, i.e., you know, the BLM conversations, the conversations around LGBTQBT as well. So please keep talking, make sure we have these communications. I don't know if there's anything else left apart from me to remind you, yes, bpicnetwork.com is the website. Do go on to that. Go CBR, look them up as well. If you're interested in the work that they're doing and the opportunities that could come from this. Really do appreciate all of you. Thank you, Marco and Claudio, as well, for saying thank you. You've enjoyed the conversation. And to Grant, yes, we did actually. She said, thank you. All the subjects covered have surpassed the title given. Very true, because I didn't think we'd end up talking about the internal heater system and juggling children and all the other things that have gone on, and in particular what Hannah shared there about having to deal now with that anxiety about going back to work. But please support each other, keep each other in mind. If you're a person that prays like I do, be praying for each other, because our world is a better place when we can come together and unify. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you ever so much again. I'm Nikki Tucker. I've been your host for this afternoon.
Thanks, guys.